Good morning, everybody. Another beautiful day to get up and enjoy these temperatures. It's not cold, it's cool. Got the door open in the windows. Let some of this nice air in. We're coming into the end of the summer and going into fall here shortly. It's a good time of year. It's also a busy time for the watchers, of which I am one as well. What are we watching for? Well, we're told to watch. So we're going to be looking a little bit into Matthew 24, a little bit in 25, a couple of verses in Revelation, just so we can see where things are at. It's an interesting time. Our rapture predictors are out there all over the place. Our rapture distractors are also out there. And there's the most misquoted verse ever is used to basically shut us down. They don't want to hear anything. They just want to just go away. You know, the three monkeys, hear no evil, see no evil. Well, they classify us talking about the rapture and the end of times as evil. Some of them are still looking for the rapture, but they've got a mindset that it's a post-trib rapture. Why would God do that? Now, there is a rapture at the end, but there's a rapture at the beginning and a rapture in the middle. The majority of us Christians will go up in the pre-trib rapture. There's a handful or so that will go up in the middle, and then the final collection at the end. But they pull stuff out of context. They see that, but like I said before, we have a three-dimensional elephant that we're trying to describe. And they're standing below the tail looking at it and going, well, this is all there is. This is it. It's the post-trib rapture. Well, they're partly right that there is one, but that's not the only one. Because if that's the only one, we've got a terrible God. Because to leave his bride down here to go through the entire tribulation, and then at the very last second, pull the bride up. The tribulation has never been for Christians. Now, we're not perfect, but we're not like the world. We have been set aside. We are special. And we're forgiven. So we actually can talk to God. The world can't. Only Christians can talk to God. Because Jesus has taken our sin on so that God doesn't see our sin. Never will. Okay, so what is the most misquoted verse in the Bible? No one will know the day or the hour. And what do they use it for? To shut us down. The minute anybody gives you any kind of a timeline or a generalization about when this is going to be, what this is going to be, I've heard people use that verse for everything in the Bible. If they don't want to hear about it, no one knows the day or the hour. What's that got to do with Mary finding an empty tomb or any of the stuff in Revelation? They use it for everything in there. They just don't want to have a discussion. So don't argue with them. Most post-trib people I have nothing to say to. They believe themselves to be Christians, and I'm grateful for that, but that's as far as I go. We don't go any further. They've got that programmed into their mind, their propaganda. They're as bad as any of the cults, Mormons or any of the other ones, that don't believe the Bible fully. So I usually end up trying to carry on a reasonable conversation, and I can see it's not going to go anywhere. You're not going to change their programming. So eventually I end up blocking them because they don't know how to be quiet. They've got to tell everybody else what they've been told. They yell it sometimes. Capital letters. We're all crazy. They're the only ones that's right. Yeah, they're going to be the ones in heaven behind the wall that, shh, we don't want to let them know because they think they're the only ones here. Okay, let's take a look at our verse. Where is our verse at? That's in Matthew 24:36. We're going to read a little bit of this, and then we're going to go back. We're going to back up verse by verse and understand how that particular verse was meant. Don't pull things out of context. If it references something earlier, then you got to go back and find that something. 24:36. But of that day and hour, no one knows. That day. What is that day? We're going to look into that in a little bit. Not even the angels in heaven, nor my Father in heaven. Yeah, this is the Galilean wedding comparison. After the wedding vows, the son's going to go back to the house, build another room into the mansion, into the big stately home, whatever it is. And when he's done, you look to the Father, and the Father will say, not yet, until it's the right time. And typically in the middle of the night, the Father will go to the Son, okay, let's go get your bride. Technically, they're already married. They just haven't been living together. That's what's coming. There's a wedding feast and a wedding night. We have that ahead of us. Okay. I'm just going to read some of this stuff here to give you some of these familiar verses that we're used to hearing. And then we're going to backtrack. But as in the days of Noah, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. So Jesus is coming. There's no doubt about that. How is he coming? What's he coming for? Remember, Matthew is talking to his apostles. He's teaching them about the end times. They asked him in the beginning of 24, where was it, 24? Well, they asked him in 24, 3, tell us, in verse 3, tell us when will these things be and what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age. Notice that, end of the age. That's what they're wanting to know. They're not asking about his rapture. That's not the end. And we'll see that this answer, when we backtrack a little bit, we're going to see that it's at the end, not the beginning. Okay. Continuing on. For as in the days of the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying, giving in marriage, until the day of Noah, that Noah entered the ark. They were going about their normal business. They weren't paying attention. They watched this crazy old man build this big boat when there's no reason to have a boat in the middle of dry land. They weren't listening. They didn't want to listen. They were doing their own thing. And it took them a long time to build this boat, in which case, I don't know how close he was to town, how many people walked by, but they probably all jeered at him. It's like, you waiting for the water to get here, Noah? He had to be thick-skinned to put up with all that. And did not know until the flood came and took them all away. So also will the coming of the Son of Man be. You've got from now until he comes to get it right. The people of the world have to get it right. They have to accept Jesus as their Lord and Savior. If they don't, that's it. This is the last chance. And the tribulation time frame is simply God waking people up. Pay attention. Listen to me. Stop ignoring me. He's going to make people's lives so miserable that they will have no other choice but to listen to God. And then they will make a choice to say yes or no. It's going to be cut and dried. No one's going to be able to say we weren't told. That will not happen. Well, they may say it, but he's going to point back to them. Remember when I said this to you? Remember when these people came over and talked to you? Remember when they, brought food over to you when you were sick and they wanted to talk to you about God and about Jesus and you didn't want to listen? Everybody will have an opportunity. And at the very end, the angels will go around the world and tell everybody. He doesn't want anyone to perish. Okay. So anyhow, it says to watch therefore because you do not know what hour your Lord is coming. But know this, that if the master of the house had known the hour the thief would come, he would have watched and not allowed his house to be broken into. His coming is compared to a thief in the night. Plenty of references to his coming at night. Now, we're talking, I'm assuming, night in Jerusalem or Israel. We're in the United States, so I think, what are we, 12 hours away or something? Okay, and then again in 25:13, watch therefore, for you do not know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming. Okay, so let's figure out what this means. But of that day, so we're not going to know the day or the hour. Will we know the season? Let's back up to 36 is where we've been at. Let's go back to 32 and read this paragraph. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When its branch has already become tender and puts forth green leaves. Now, this has sometimes been misinterpreted that it's referring to, the rapture. Nothing in Matthew 24 is referring to the rapture. Nothing. The Jews didn't want to know about a rapture, about an early escape. They wanted Jesus to come back as the Lion of Judah and conquer the Romans, punish them, send them off with their tails between their legs. That's what the Jews wanted. They weren't looking to escape. They were looking for God to come to earth and rule with an iron fist. And he will for 1,000 years. But that's not yet. That's still in the future. So when the branch has already become tender and puts forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you also, when you see all these things, know that it is near. All these things. We're going to keep backing up and you're going to see all these things. Keep things in context. Surely I say to you, this generation will by no means pass away till all these things take place. Again, things. We'll back up and see what he's talking about. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will by no means pass away. This will always be around. So we've got a reference. And the fig tree. The fig tree typically is talking about Jerusalem, but we have to understand and interpret this. So if we're talking about Israel, they became a nation once again in 1948. You could use 47 if you wanted to use the United Nations resolution, giving them the right to create a state. It took them a year to pull it together. They had to write all their constitution stuff and everything. They're not like us. They have a slightly different, more of a European type government. And again, they didn't think that they would get so corrupt that they would worry about losing their government. Similar to what we're having in the United States now, is we have groups trying to overthrow it from within. Okay, well, let's back up again. I'm going to back up to 29 now. Immediately after the tribulation of those days. This is our timeline that we're reading through here. Immediately after the tribulation. That's not in the beginning. Immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sun will be darkened, the moon will not give its light, the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the heaven will be shaken. Then the sign of the Son of Man will appear in heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn. He will be seen. You will be able to look up and see him, and then they will realize their mistake. And they will see the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he will send his angels with the shout of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. They will gather his elect. Let's take a look at some definitions. What is elect? Who is he gathering? The elect are people who are chosen. Who are the people that are chosen? Well, in the beginning, Adam and Eve were created. They weren't chosen necessarily, they just were created. Eventually, they get to, we're going to jump all the way ahead to Noah. 8 people were chosen to get on the ark. Pretty much everybody's related to Noah because everybody else on the earth was killed because of their corrupted DNA. Another story. But eventually, one in particular, Abram, is chosen, and he's become the father of many, so he becomes Abraham. God will bless him and his generations after him. So Abraham is the chosen, and all the people after him. Abraham decides not to wait on God and has a child through his handmaiden, Ishmael. But he's eventually sent off when they have their own child. Very old married couple have a child. A miracle in itself. And he sends Ishmael off. They become the Arabs, other people in the Middle East. Their Muslim religion is a religion, but the people themselves are also chosen, just like Abraham and his descendants. So those are chosen. They are the select group. But what are they selected for? We'd have to go back, and that's another study. But they were selected to represent God to the world. Because the world worshipped idols, multiple gods, gods of stone, not true gods, not gods that could actually do anything for you. You get the Baal worship, all this other stuff that's going on. Babylon back then, trying to reach God. These are the chosen. But they're not listening. They didn't learn the scriptures. God tried to teach them. Jesus, when he was here, would go in the synagogue and read their Old Testament that they had, that they supposedly knew very well. And he'd read verses about himself. What do we got coming here? A big truck. Nope, a school bus. It's that time of morning. They still didn't get it. They crucified him. So these chosen people killed the Son of God. Don't blame them. They were following God's plan. Jesus became the sacrificial lamb to remove our sin, not just cover it over. But they missed it. So just like the parable of the wedding feast, he goes out and he brings in people off the street, us, Gentiles. You may have Abraham ties, doesn't matter. He doesn't want Abraham ties. He said he could have made children of Abraham from the rocks. What he wants is a surrender and an acceptance of Jesus Christ. He sent his son here for a reason. So, who are the chosen? Well, at this point in time, basically anyone related to Abraham. We are adopted into the family as Christians. So we are also part of that. But we're the true part that he really wants. He wants the Jews to accept Christ. That's what he came for. Jesus didn't go to the Gentiles first. He went to the Jews. And a Gentile woman came up and asked to be heard and taken care of. And he says, I didn't come here for you. And she said, even the dogs eat the scraps of the table. And he was amazed. All right, so the select. So that's who he's coming for. He's going to gather them from the four winds. That's where we get the verses where, it's the sheep and the goats. He's going to separate the people. Two will be working in the field, one will be gone, the other one will remain. And this is a rapture. But it is not a pre-trib rapture, it's a post-trib rapture. So this is one of the many. Okay? So, and immediately after the tribulation, we see the sun and the moon darkened. Revelation 6:12. Let's turn to that. Revelation hasn't been written yet, but the timeline has been created. The sixth seal. I looked when I opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, as a fig tree drops its late figs. I like to talk about fig trees. When it was shaken by a mighty wind, and the sky receded as a scroll, and it rolled up, and every mountain and island was moved out of its place. And the kings of the earth, the great men, the rich men, the commanders, the mighty men, and then every slave, every free man, hid themselves in the caves and the rocks. Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne, from the wrath of the Lamb. For the great day of his wrath has come. And if you read on in 7, Revelation 7:9, after these things I looked, and behold, a great multitude which no one could number, of all the nations, tribes, and peoples, and tongues, standing before the throne of the Lamb, clothed in white robes, with palm branches in their hands, crying out, salvation belongs to our God, who sits on the throne. Who are these people? Well, the angel asked John, or an elder who's a heavenly being, asked John, who are these arrayed in white robes? And John says, Sir, you know, these are the ones who have come out of the great tribulation. These are the people that survive the tribulation, the great tribulation, which is the second half of the 70th week. The bowl judgments are the start of the great tribulation, and it's after the abomination of desolation, so it's in the second half. So there's your timing of this. Again, You got to go back and read backwards to find out what all these things that we're not supposed to know the day or the hour refer to. He's not talking about the rapture. He's talking about his second coming. And then let's keep... We're going to go back to 24:15. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, the temple, which has to be rebuilt, whoever reads, let him understand. And let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is in the housetop not go down and take anything out of the house. Just immediately flee. Kind of the same warning that Lot was giving. Get out of Sodom and Gomorrah now. And it's going to get bad. And it says further on down in 22, and unless those days were shortened, no flesh would have survived. But for the elect's sake, those days were shortened. The elect, God's chosen. We're not here for this stuff. We have to get out of the way before the Antichrist is even revealed. Before we can do the abomination, we have to be out of here. Because we're in the way. And we would recognize him, we'd call him out, and he wouldn't be able to carry out his plan. So, again, Matthew is answering his Jewish apostles about his second coming. It's going to get tough. Stay to the end, and you will have a reward. So when someone says, no one knows the day or the hour, well, we have the parable of the fig tree saying you will know the season. We are in the season now. So it could happen any time. The first rapture. Paul taught about the rapture to the Thessalonians. He taught him in 1 Thessalonians. Somebody created a fake letter from Paul and spread it around. And they panicked. Times were tough in the 1st through 3rd century. They were feeding Jews to the lions, Jews and Christians. So, God is telling us the timeline. We don't know the day or the hour, fine, but we know the season. We're in the season right now. So I would expect him to come for us sometime, not on a Jewish festival day. We're in the Gentile church age. When this ends, and all evidence seems to point to 2023, something big is going to happen. We're 6 years away from the Revelation 12 sign back in 2017. This month, we're switching to the 7th year on the Jewish calendar. Summer is switching to fall. The season's going to change this month. There will be a version of the Revelation 12 sign. Brenda Weltner pointed out that Venus will be its brightest, and it will go through Leo and Virgo. So, if we were to predict a time, that would be it. The problem we have with the rapture is actually worse than the second coming. It doesn't say anything to really give us a timeline for it. But if we look at Revelation 12, it's not based on a Jewish festival. It's based purely on Satan coming to earth with a third of his angels for the purpose of killing the child, the male child that will be born. Now, Jesus is already born, and Revelation is to the future. So we're not talking about Revelation. We're not talking about Jesus in this Revelation. He's already come and gone and is next to the Father. He's talking about all of us, because we will assist Jesus in ruling for 1,000 years. When he comes back, he's coming back with all of us in the sky, well seen and known by the world. The rapture is not known by anybody but Christians. And in that case, it's a blink of an eye, and we will go join him in the clouds, not on earth. So he's not doing his second coming for the rapture. He's just coming here to rescue us, get us out of here. Now, there will be a trumpet. There will be an angel. We will be protected, and we will go up in mass. And the dead in Christ will rise as well. All that's coming very shortly. Now, I can't give you a day or an hour, but that's not what this verse is talking about. It's talking about the second coming. I still can't give you a day and an hour because we really don't know. It's triggered off of Satan's attack. So as soon as he thinks the world is ready for his son, God has his son, Satan has his. He copies God. He can't be original. And everything's already been done. So we're going to be getting out of here. If all of our calculations are correct, this is the month to watch. Now, what else is going to happen this month? All kinds of things can line up. Our government could collapse. They have to have a place for the Antichrist to fit in. I think everything that needs to be in place for the Antichrist is in place. Not everything is fully functional, but it's in place. He could come in and smooth out the problems that we're having, make it appear to be a savior. He will have signs and wonders. Even the elect could be fooled, and we know who that is. We won't be here. Now, there is a post-trib rapture. That's just a final collection of everybody. Let's get all of our Christians off the earth. Not all of our descendants of Abraham, but all the Christians. Hopefully, a good many will be at this point in time descendants of Abraham that also believe in Jesus. We'll have the 2 witnesses and the 144,000 whose job it is to get to these people and tell them, you missed when he was here before. Don't miss this time, because he's not coming back again. So when somebody tells you nobody knows the day or the hour, well, that's fine. I may be able to tell you what week. Doesn't say I won't know the week. But that's the second coming. And that's a number of years in the future after we are raptured. It doesn't say anything about when the rapture is going to happen. So we don't know. Could God tell somebody? He could, but he's not. The reason he's not, my Lucy and Peanut football kick cartoon. He's coming down here to kill us. And God is going to pull us out of the way the same way Lucy pulls the football out from in front of Peanut, Charles, and he will kick at us and fall on his back, and we'll all laugh. Corvette going by. Why do people have to have noisy cars? That one doesn't sound healthy. So be ready. Read the parable of the 10 virgins. Be ready. Have your oil ready. Basically, oil is a representation of the Spirit. Have the Spirit inside of you good and healthy and ready. And you will be in the right state of mind to have God come to earth, to collect us up and get us out of here. Keep looking in the clouds. I'm doing my videos like every 2 days or so. I've been filming the last 2 days, and God didn't give me a message. I only teach when God gives me a message. I'm not teaching my own stuff. I could teach this. I could teach the Bible as I know it right now without God. I don't ever want to do that. And you don't want to listen to me teach. You want God to give me what to say. Because then I know it will be the best possible thing to say. So when somebody tells you, when you're quoting about the rapture, no one knows the day or the hour, tell them it has nothing to do with the rapture. It's the second coming. And we'll be out of here long before that happens. We don't know the day or the hour, or the minute, or the second. We don't know anything about it. We just know He's coming, and we have to be ready, watching, and doing what God wants us to do while we're waiting. Simple. And if someone says that we don't know the day or the hour, you're right, I don't. I'm not talking to you about that. Don't pull things out of context. Be nice. They don't know. And half the time they're just trying to shut you down so they can go on living in their world that they believe is earth. This is not our home. Don't get drawn into it. It's not an earthly fight. It's a spiritual fight. And we're all equipped for that fight. Until we meet in the clouds, hopefully very soon. God bless.